So again, I'm Brooke Gazdag. I'm a professor here at the KLU. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the IDE committee, which I'm also a part of, and also give you a bit of a crash course on diversity and inclusion, but focusing mostly on exercises. And so I'll come back to what we just did in the foyer there in just a moment. So, and then there we go. So just to tell you a little bit about me, and some of you might be wishing that you'd talked to me when you had your networking board there just a minute, or the bingo board just a minute ago. So first of all, I'm an organizational psychologist. I got my PhD at Buffalo, New York. And does anybody know what's near Buffalo, New York? Niagara Falls. Did anybody have Niagara Falls on your board? Been to Niagara Falls? Okay, a few of you. And then I moved to Munich in 2012 to work on a project looking at the selection and evaluation of leaders in academia and in industry. And then I stayed in Munich for another 8 years, and now I had a little bit of time in Amsterdam, and now I'm in Hamburg. And I've learned a lot about the differences between North and South of Germany. And so I see myself as a curator of knowledge, so meaning I bring together a bunch of different ideas and try to link them together with topics that are important to me, like diversity and inclusion, leadership, and negotiations. And so in that vein, I want to tell you a little bit about the IDE committee. And so this is an office where the purpose is promoting a culture of inclusion, diversity, and equality and equity. And we focus on supporting students, faculty, and staff. So we really try to be there for everyone. And we're trying to create an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. And so we can also give informal advice, but we can also put different systems or ideas in place. So you can see there's quite a few of us interested in this topic, and we get together about once a month and talk about different ideas about what we can do to make KLU a more inclusive environment, not just for us who are working here, but also for you students. And so for those of you who maybe don't know yet, inclusion is all about taking efforts to make sure that everyone feels welcomed and valued, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Diversity is about finding out different things, bringing in these different experiences, backgrounds, and perspectives. So also all these things you just found out about each other playing the networking bingo. And then also equality and equity. So trying to make sure that not only that there's opportunities for everyone, but also that everyone gets what they need based on their personal needs. And so today is part of the overall vision of making diversity and inclusion at KLU more of a prominent topic. You'll also have other opportunities. I'm sure you've already learned about some of them, and you will learn about some of them soon. So for example, working together with other cultures, or thriving and surviving in Germany. And this is relevant for anyone, probably even if you grew up in Germany. And if you'd like to get involved, you can have a positive impact yourself. You can send us ideas. There's also a contact form. You can follow the QR code. And there's opportunities to engage, so we have something like today. And we're open to suggestions from anybody. So if there's something that you think that would be worth trying out, we'd really like to hear from you. So this is your official invitation to share your ideas and to let us try to co-create this inclusive environment together. So that's enough of the information part. Now what we've done is we've had the introduction to the IDE committee. So you know a little bit about how we're formally trying to address diversity and inclusion here at KLU. Then the next thing we've done was this bingo game. And the bingo was trying to get at the diversity aspect. And so has anybody heard this quote before? That diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. Has anybody heard this quote before? All right, I see a few. Either you're uncomfortable in your seat or you said yes. So diversity, the difference is here is diversity is just trying to make sure that there's all the people that represent our colorful society are there at the party. And inclusion is something very active where you're connecting, asking questions, trying to understand, and in this scenario, asking them to dance. And so diversity, there's so many different ways to try to organize our thoughts around it. Here are two very popular ones. Maybe you've seen these images before. So first is here the diversity wheel, and this is trying to demonstrate, okay, there's certain characteristics some that we can see with the visible eye, that are visible to the eye. And the second ones are ones that we have to dig a little bit deeper and ask questions in order to understand how we might be different or what kind of different experiences we had. And so that's with the bingo game. It was trying to ask specific questions, trying to find out, okay, what kind of experience has this person had? Okay, how do I find somebody who's jumped out of a plane? How do I find somebody who speaks more than 3 languages? Sometimes some of these characteristics we can only find out if we ask the right questions. And that's this other image here, is that with all these different characteristics, some of them, again, are above the surface, and others are below. And so by asking good questions, being curious about each other, we can find out where the diversity is just in this group here. Now this brings me to my second concept here, which is inclusion. And inclusion has 2 dimensions. One is uniqueness, and the other is belonging. And uniqueness means that I see all this diversity in the room, and it's really important to me. And I want to make sure that all of these diverse experiences, all of these perspectives, everything that makes each one of you different is brought out and shared and makes our experience together more rich. And the second piece is that you feel like you're part of this team, that you feel like you're invited here, and so that you feel at home on campus, for example. And if we can balance these two and we can get to high value and uniqueness and high value and belonging, then we get inclusion. And I won't go through all the different definitions, but as you can imagine, the opposite of that would be exclusion. I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I have anybody to talk to. I don't feel like anybody's going to notice if I'm not here. Or uniqueness, low value and uniqueness, saying nobody really recognizes the unique experience that I bring to the table. And so we're trying to go all the way to the other side and really make sure that we incorporate inclusion in the way that we talk to each other, the way that we interact, the way that we work in teams. If you want to hear more about diversity and inclusion, I have my welcome ceremony lecture tomorrow night. I'll tell you more about that later. No obligation, you're here all day anyways. But this would be more of an academic presentation then. So we did already the bingo, so I'm going to click through these slides. And I'm sure you ended up talking to some people that you hadn't talked to before, ideally, especially if you had 19 or 18, as we had with some of our top players there. Those are likely you had to go hunting and you had to try to find these things in the different groups. So that's one first step. That's one of the things that we can do. Another thing we can do is to be very aware of our thinking processes. So that's what I have for you now already for our next exercise. Is I call this, why did they sit there? So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about belonging, and then we're going to do this exercise. Okay. So has anybody seen this before? The Maslow's hierarchy of needs? A few? All right. And so as you can see, we can debate this in psychology and in research. We really debate, okay, do we have a lot of good evidence, good data to support this? Not as much, but it still helps us to organize our thoughts. And what you see right there in the middle is belonging. And if you look at the needs of the 21st century, maybe also Wi-Fi is at the bottom of this, right? So we try to stay with the times. But you see how central belonging is, right? To what we need to be ourselves, to feel good where we are, and to perform. And so I want to now break apart this idea. So in this activity, I'm going to ask you to answer the question, why did they sit there? And so in this activity, I'll divide you into 2 groups to answer the following question. Explain why you are sitting in your group and why the other people are sitting in their group. And this is going to be based on how close or how far you're sitting from me. So you didn't know that this was going to be relevant for this exercise. And what I'd like you to do is, all right, so if we say, I see a person in a green shirt. Do you mind raising your hand? All right, that's the halfway part. If you're in that row or close to me, you're in the front. If you're behind that row and towards the back, then you're in the back. So group 1 is here in the front, and group 2 there in the back. I think it's not exactly evenly split, but we'll go with it. Now I'd like you to turn to your neighbor and just for 2 minutes, develop a theory. Why is group 1 sitting in the front and why is group 2 sitting in the back? And so take 2 minutes, talk to your neighbor, come up with a theory. All right, start ending your conversations. Put your hands up if you can hear me. Put your hand up if you can hear me. All right, perfect, thank you. All right, well, I'd love to hear from you now. I'm sure I'm not the only psychologist in the room at the moment. You have your theories. Why is group 1 sitting in the front? Why is group 2 sitting in the back? Who would like to share with me your theory? Oh, we have it in the front here. Oh, also there. Yeah.
Okay, well, just that we entered the room, and then we just, I was the first one who entered, and then I was like way too lazy to go all the way upstairs, so I just ended up being here, and my friends followed me, and then that's how we ended up here. So that's it. So
the stairs just looked really far, and
like,
this looked really comfortable.
Lunch, and then there's siesta time, and then it's like, and then the first row is mostly for guests or something, as I understand. So we're just.
But you all are the guests.
Well, right now, but like the previous sessions, there are people.
Yeah, true.
Came from the sports clubs or psychologists. So we just. Yeah, and I didn't think about all of that when I entered this row, so I don't know.
But now reflecting, perfect. Thank you so much for going first. We have another one over here.
So actually, I sat here because I wanted to kind of actively participate in case there are some interactive things happening.
Perfect.
It's harder to reach there. And in the terms of question, why the group 2 is different, I could have said it, because they don't want to participate, but that's not what it's all about. I would say my main theory is firstly because just everyone wants to stick to their own group, and when, for example, this row is already like 4 people sitting and there is not enough space for your group, so you just choose the next one and the next one.
Keep going.
So some people just entered the building not that fast as others, and they were like, yes, I want to sit with my friends no matter where. And that's how it works.
And so the most space was towards the back? Okay.
There is no real psychology and separation behind this.
Well, there's the psychology of the group there, I would say, in both cases. One person made the first move, the rest followed. Thank you both. All right. Group 2, do you have anything to say for yourselves in the back there? No? Are we living up to the group 2 stereotype? Didn't want to participate? You think the lights are going to blind me? I can't see you. All right.
I think we were just later. I agree with a lot of the theories. Like, we developed 3. The first one being, A, you want to participate and you don't. Like, it's either a thing of like how comfortable you feel with it or not. B, space-wise. And C, some people just arrived earlier than us, apparently. So yeah.
Also sounds good. Well-structured answer as well. So I tried to pull some stereotypes out of the group so far, but nobody's tempted? Not even a little bit?
I think it's like in a bus, the cool people always sit in the back. No.
There it goes. I was waiting for that.
Honestly, for myself, I think I don't like to have people sitting behind me. So I like to just see the room. I think it's maybe a comfort zone thing as well.
Your personal safety was at stake.
But I think the participation thing is also a thing. So I didn't plan to participate, so that's why I sat here.
Well, I appreciate that you won yourself over and participated. All right, any other theories? All right, so I'm curious, we haven't shared so many as a group. You don't have to say what you said, but did you have differences that you highlighted when you were talking to your neighbors? Do you say, group 1 is like this and group 2 is like that? Who did a comparison and said there are differences between the groups? I see some, again, either shifting in the chairs or hands raised, I'm not sure. All right. Did anybody focus on what might be in common between the 2 groups? Curious.
I think group 1 is no different from the group 2. That's a question of preferences where you want to sit. But we're all together here in one hall, and we're all guests. So I think we're just friends here, and we are not different.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Couldn't have said it better. I think even though I've been trying, every single one of your answers focused on this sense of community that you have already developed with each other today. And it's hard to break that bond. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say what we really have in common is that just everybody wanted to sit with someone they know. And that's what brought us either to group 1 or group 2.
Yeah. And then I arbitrarily picked based on a shirt color where the divide is. And that's the idea behind this exercise. So I've played this in various groups, depending, sometimes in MBAs and groups that are a little bit more competitive, there's a long list of differences, why somebody might be sitting in the front and why the other group is sitting in the back. But the point of this exercise is also to see that I picked a completely random line in the room and made you into 2 groups. And then I tried with my questions to make you focus on the differences, but you were ahead of me, and you were able to already see, okay, what is it that brings us together? And there's that sense of belonging. So instead of making the identity, oh, I'm part of group 2 and they're part of group 1, the identity is, we're all here. We all just wanted to sit down in a comfortable seat with people that we've met in this week. And so what's interesting is this is, you can prime this in experiments or in a lab, and it's called an in-group and an out-group bias. I'm sure maybe you've heard of it before. And these things can happen very quickly. And so maybe this is something you've seen in especially American high school movies where everybody sits at their own lunch table and it's really hard to get into a new lunch table. Maybe if Mean Girls is an old movie now, it used to be not that old, but that's exactly what you'd see in a movie like that. Everybody's sitting at their own lunch table. They have that belonging, but they don't have that sense of community that's bigger than their group. And so other times when I do this in groups, there is a big tendency or a big temptation to go for these stereotypes. And so I am overjoyed that we talked about where the cool kids sit, because yeah, these are stereotypes that we have in our mind. Maybe it's not exactly what we're applying to today, but these are things that we've heard over time. But if we slow down the way we think and we focus more on what we have in common, then it shifts our perspective entirely about where do we belong, who belongs with us. All right. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because what I had in mind, I'm having some technical issues with my Slido. And I'm wondering if anybody has heard of the video All That We Share? Has anybody? No? Excellent, then I can surprise you a little bit today. And what I'm going to do is I have some questions here on my phone, and I'm going to read them out loud to you. And if they are relevant to you, I ask you to stand up if you would say yes to that question, and if not, you can stay seated. And these questions are all different sorts of topics, but I appreciate, I hear all the squeaking, that means you're getting ready to stand up, so I'm excited to see you move. And so I have about 15 questions in total, and I'll go slowly through them, so you can also take a look around and see what other kinds of experiences you share. All right. So, first one. Who has ever been a class clown? Made your classmates laugh when you were in class? Did something funny? All right. So make sure you sit next to these people in class starting next week. Take a good look. All right, you may sit down. All right. Who is never on time or really struggles with it? All right, it's good to be honest. Get it out now. All right. All right, look to your friends and say, help me remember where I need to be and where I need to be there. All right, thank you. You can sit down. All right. Who has tattoos? All right. Cool. Thank you. All right, you can sit down. Who is thinking about getting a tattoo? All right, I hope you looked at who was the people standing up. You can get some advice. All right, great. Have a seat. All right, who loves to dance? All right. This could be out, this could be during the day, during class. All right. Thank you, have a seat. All right, now for some different sort of questions. Who has volunteered or helped someone in a way that made a difference in their life? All right. Beautiful. Thank you very much. You can sit down. Who has already gotten lost on the way to campus or on campus today? Yeah. All right, so the never on time people and the lost people, I think there's an overlap. Who is still wondering if they're in the right room right now? No? I saw some, no, not going to fall for it? Okay, I tried. Who has traveled to a country that changed their perspective on life? Oh, wow. The vast majority, I would say. Very cool. All right, thank you. Sit down. Yeah, Mallorca. Sure. Let's see. All right, so this one's a longer question, so pay attention. Who has changed a personal opinion or belief after engaging in a deep conversation with someone who had a different perspective? All right, that's not easy to do, to stay in a conversation with somebody who has a different perspective than you. All right, cool. Thank you. Okay. Who has learned a valuable lesson from a mistake they made at school or work? All right. I sense a lot of openness. Okay, everybody stood up. All right, thank you very much for sharing. You may sit down. All right. Lost my place. Who feels grateful for a friend, peer, or mentor at this time in their life? All right. Lovely. Perfect, thank you. And who has relocated to study, either now or previously? All right, quite a few people. Great. Thank you very much. Sit down. And finally, who has learned something new, maybe even surprising, about a friend recently? All right, cool. I mean, I guess you have a lot of new friends in this room. Great, perfect, thank you. All right, so the idea with this exercise is simply to take a moment and reflect on some of the experiences that you've collected so far in your life, and also trying to uncover a little bit more about what are some of the experiences of the people around you. And this is part of what I would call everyday inclusion, which brings us to one of our last points. And then we have some time to talk a little bit more informally. And the idea here is that inclusion is something that happens every day. It's in these small things. It's in the questions we ask. It's in the invitations. It's in digging for that deeper understanding, especially when you have a different perspective. And so I also like this exercise because, and if you Google it, you'll find this was, I think, done first in Denmark somewhere, and they had it's a very touching video, and they asked different sorts of questions, and they had people from all walks of life. And I think it's a really powerful analogy or metaphor for looking at how questions bring us closer and identify ways that we can connect with each other. And so now what I'd like you to do is to take a moment and reflect yourselves. And as I said, I'm part of the IDE committee. We're trying to find ways to make KLU more inclusive. And this doesn't have to be a structural change, a huge system. But I'm curious, now having taken almost an hour of your time already, what do you take away from this conversation around diversity and inclusion so far? What would you actually do differently, or what would you make sure that you continue to do? And so I'd like to give you, again, 1 or 2 minutes to talk to your neighbors, talk through your ideas. What do you think? What would you do to show everyday inclusion yourself now that you're starting here at KLU? And I'd really love to hear from as many of you as possible and to get this conversation around inclusion going. So go ahead, talk to your neighbors, 2 or 3 minutes. What would you do to show that you value inclusion now that you've started here at the KLU? What are some ideas? Wonderful. Thank you for your attention. All right, now I'd really love to hear from you. What are some things that came to mind? Yes, please, in the front.
Yeah, hello again. So I can't say I will start. I will rather continue fighting the out-group biases that can come to my mind, because as I see this, our brain just doesn't want to work hard. He just assumes something based on the bias, but meeting every new person, I would try to disconnect this person from any group he belongs to and just try to really get to know what the person is, not his gender or nationality and so on.
Great, perfect, thank you. And that's a great point, because indeed we have so much information coming at us at all times, and our brain just wants to find the quickest way to understand what's in front of us. And one of the things that happens then is stereotypes. But exactly, engaging in that conversation, thinking a little bit harder, can help pull you out and make that connection. Perfect. All right, there in the back. Yeah.
We said that we want to make sure that if we're talking in a bigger group and there's a person that doesn't speak German, especially for the Germans, that we make sure we speak English.
Yeah. Perfect. Beautiful. It's these small adjustments, this awareness that we can bring to our interactions that makes all the difference. Wonderful. Thank you.
Nearly. Also, we're speaking also about language, that we speak more English. And also, even though there are a lot of groups already, also for bachelors and masters and the little groups, that's not like that no one gives the feeling as if you couldn't approach them. Like it's just a closed group and no one could get in. Like that's not what inclusion is. It would be nice if that's a bit more open.
Great. Well, I think this is a great first step, saying it out loud with everyone here, saying, even if you perceive it might be a closed group, it's not. Please come. Please be invited. And we'll do the best we can to make sure that we are inviting you to actively.
Note on that. That's what student clubs are best for, because there is no classes. Everybody is there for whatever is the interest.
Perfect.
Women in business, sustainability, and you get to know other peers from other classes where you can have a great, rich exchange. So encouraged to get to one of the clubs.
Wonderful.
Can you pass it to the gentleman over there?
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Hey, I think that besides that everyone feels included, that all groups and everyone is feeling actively invited to participate in the various events at KLU, so that no one is standing on the side and always feels warmly welcome.
Perfect. Yes, I can see it before my eyes as you describe it. It's beautiful. Thank you.
It's rather corny or cheesy or funny, but
That's the best one.
In Fachhochschule for beginning Deutsch course here in Hamburg, our teachers had us change seats every day. And I think that it's simple. It's something you don't think about when you walk into a classroom. You walk into the same seat that you sat before with the same people you sat before the next time as you did the last time. But when you force yourself to sit in one chair different or two chairs different next to one or two persons different, it's a very small impact on your perspective and a very small impact on how you talk or who you talk to or who you listen to. And it can add up to a large change over time.
Perfect. Exactly. I love that example because it is the metaphor, or is a perfect metaphor for what we're trying to do. Change your perspective, expose yourself to different perspectives, and collect those experiences and be aware of them. right? So we might think, oh, I have to sit in this different chair today, but say, all right, well, actually, what do I see that's different today? What am I learning that I didn't know before? Perfect. What else?
I think that everyone should be as polite and as nice as possible with each other, because everyone can have his trouble and his problem. And I think it's useful to just have a smile on your face when someone passes, say hi, just be nice with everyone, and try to make their day better in somehow. Just help the people that is around you to have a nice day.
Yeah, it's perfect. And it's these little things, again, the smile, the eye contact, the hi. It makes a huge difference. And we're all going to be on campus together, and you're going to see people from different classes, and maybe some familiar faces from here, maybe some not familiar faces. It's also okay. They'll also probably say hi.
You're making me work out today, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm impressed, Patricia. That's...
I just wanted to add, I think it's also important in conversation if you're already talking. I think some cultural things will be different, and if you find it weird or you don't understand, then rather than I think it's easy to jump to conclusion and say, wow, that's why would they do that? It's so uncool, I would never do that. But rather than have the thoughts, maybe asked why they're doing it this way, because it could be a cultural thing and not something about the person. We never know what motivates somebody, and it just could be a difference.
Yeah, and I love that, because also it's the curiosity, and especially something might be said, and you might be even offended at the first thing, and then you want to dive deeper. You want to say, do I understand it like this? Is this? Oh, I thought I was going to keep going down the stairs. We're going to keep hearing the bump. But this curiosity, just to make sure that you don't jump to the first conclusion, but say, okay, maybe there's a cultural difference that can explain what I'm hearing here. And of course, that's the beauty and the challenge of being in such a diverse environment. But inclusion is, in this inclusive mindset, is what can help make it all work. Yeah, perfect. What else?
I'm not a student, but I can add one more.
Absolutely.
Just being very aware of our own bias and our own stereotypes and our own privileges, because we all have. Well, we all come from somewhere and something, and the people around you might not have had the same opportunities, might not have had the same education, and sometimes we think about inclusiveness of outside. But I think inclusion also starts inside, and being aware of who you are and what puts you where you are helps then you take action on those things outside.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, because at the end of the day, one of the things you can control best is yourself. And so holding yourself accountable, taking responsibility for your own thought processes, it's the very first important step to inclusion.
Hello? Yep. So maybe respect the opposite person's opinion, and just even if you don't agree with them, just don't be fixated on changing their opinion. And also, it can be as easy as agreeing to disagree.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Because ideally, that's what you're trying to do, is bring together different opinions, different perspectives. And if you can hold the space between those differences, you'll be ever more enriched by that. But it is really challenging. And so keeping in touch with yourself, making sure that you're not going the easy route, but really staying in that conversation. Perfect.
Oof. We say a lot about respect. Another word that I'd like to say is empathy, because we never know what is the other background, and we never know. Everyone is carrying something that we may never know exactly what is happening with them, and it's really hard to wear someone else's shoes. But we need to be there and try to go with them, and everyone has something to share, and we can learn with everyone.
Perfect, yeah. Empathy, and that's also a muscle we can train, right? So it's through these experiences, through hearing these different perspectives and experiences, that we start to stretch and expand our ability to empathize, to really feel with the person across from us. That's a great addition. What else?
Can you make it to her? You can do it. Mic down, mic down.
So close.
Hi. So last thing I also wanted to add is respecting people's boundaries. As an example, I can tell you about my roommate who, first time that I came, he asked me a lot of questions about my hometown, about my beliefs. And the next morning, he actually apologized for it because he reflected on it and he thought it would be too much. And he thought about how I would feel listening about every single detail and telling him about every single detail. And so also respecting other people's boundaries, their cultures, their personal space, the topics that they're comfortable or uncomfortable talking about is also very important. And putting yourself on other person's, not exactly place, but maybe imagining their perspective at least a little bit to your ability, that much.
That's great. I love that example also because sometimes you don't get it exactly right the first time, but take that time, reflect, and don't be afraid to come back and say, hey, look, now I realize that might have been uncomfortable or that might not have been exactly what you wanted. Let me talk to you about it, and let's make it about your boundaries or your preferences as well. And so it's okay if you don't get it right the first time every time. That's just a lot of times, anytime you're trying something new, it's not how it works. But having the empathy and the respect to come back and say, I thought about it, and this is what I learned, is huge. Yeah, thank you. What else? Yep, here in the front, or do we have another? Did I see another one? No.
Yeah, so I just thought about another idea that would actually help everyone feel a sense of belonging. It's quite simple. Share information. For example, you get to know about an event happening, so you would share this with everyone. So say like, hey, there is a party, there is a group going somewhere, would you like to? Or for example, there is a change in the schedule, have you seen this? And stuff like this would really help somebody feel more belonged, feel taken care of, and of course not to get lost.
Yeah, on the way or on campus or, yeah, perfect. And I think this is, this feeling that there's a community of people looking out for you, especially when you're starting off someplace new. That feeling can make all the difference. Yeah. What else? I want to make sure I get all the beauty and knowledge out of this room before we close today. All right.
Got you there. Whip. Oh, sorry.
Maybe it's also important that the people that maybe feel excluded are brave enough to come up to the people or to other people and actually ask, because I think everyone here is pretty nice, and maybe if people were just brave enough, then they'd also get new opportunities. But that's not the only factor, obviously.
Yeah, perfect. And I think this being a little bit brave is actually also a nice takeaway, whether it's whatever side of inclusion or exclusion you're on. And being brave can also mean showing that you're wrong and showing that you've learned. But that's the whole idea, why everybody's here, is you want to learn, of course, the topics and the different subjects that you're going to cover, but also learn about yourself and about each other. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to add active listening. Whether it's for a presentation or just for a group speech, just show to the person that you're really listening, ask some follow-up questions, or at least nod, say, oh yeah, oh wow, that's interesting, or I understand. When it's a presentation, for example, and it's an interactive one, and someone asking for feedback or to participate, please do, because it's the most awkward thing when there is silence and the presenter is looking forward to anybody to answer. Yeah. So yeah, to help him, to make him feel belonged and included, please do participate and share your opinions.
Perfect. And I think that's thank you for highlighting that. I feel seen in that last one. And so I want to thank you all for responding to the different activities that we had today and the discussion. And if there's anything that hasn't been shared today, please do reach out and share it with us. You're the ones on the ground when it comes to being part of the student community. And so we absolutely want to hear from you. Yes.
I think it works in both ways, because also when you want someone to hear you, you also want someone to ask you for your opinion about some situations. So when you're just listening, it can be a little bit boring. So you want to some interactive things, and yeah, maybe that's all. Just more conversation between two people.
Absolutely, and that is this piece about the conversation. And, I feel like I'm having a conversation with all 110 of you right now, but I hope this conversation keeps going. Maybe us also one-on-one, maybe in some of you, I'll have you in class. And we can keep this as a red thread, a common topic throughout all of our conversations, because it is a living, breathing process. And ideally, we're never really done being more inclusive. We can always find a way to continue to learn and develop in that domain. Any other? Oh, yes, please, one more. Yep.
I feel like I'm saying the same thing, but also being aware of your own comfort zone and your own patterns. For example, yesterday for the first day, the first person that I talked to was a girl in a master's program, and so it's nice to have connections in many groups and many courses, and not sticking to the crowd psychology as a safest option and your comfort place.
Yeah, exactly, and this is going to be an intense first couple of weeks also, as you're constantly meeting new people and constantly trying to find ways to connect. But exactly, as all of you have said multiple times, it's a nice group of people here that really want you to feel welcomed and like you belong. What else?
So I think that there is a lot of shy people that just don't want to interact with other people. And I think that it's important for the people who are more socialized to get to them and ask how is your day, ask more about him, just to be like a big family, I would say. Like one class could be a big family to everyone, and the time here could be good to everyone. Just try to be nice.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah. And
sometimes it's just that simple. Just be nice. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that too is just being aware of all the different personalities around you and seeing, okay, maybe I need to put in a little bit more effort with this person, or I need to connect in a different way.
Because a lot of people just don't want to make the first step.
Right.
Yeah, they are just too shy to make it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's useful to get it from someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, I will share a quick tip for those who, like he says, are a little bit more introverted, a little bit more reserved, more shy. You're at university. Like, this is the best place where you can practice what you're going to have to encounter in the world. You cannot go to a job interview tomorrow and be like, shut down to yourself, because I can tell you, fortunately or unfortunately, this world is made for extroverts, or at least for people who can show that they're willing to, put themselves out there. And this is the not judgment zone. When you are here, you can practice that. You can practice being open and talk about yourself and how to be presenting yourself and how to portray yourself so that you are likable if you want, but you're true to yourself, you're authentic, and you show your values. Because in the world, in the future, you're going to have to use that. So this is the best way to practice that. And then when you are out of university, you're a master already. You're not a starting. Just encouraging you to having those, maybe right now, uncomfortable conversations. Because it's going to be way more comfortable with your peer at class than with a person in a job interview. I promise.
And I want to pick up on that topic of practice, and this being a safe place to practice things. And with that, I'll also, for now, close down our discussion, but hit pause, because I really do want to keep talking to all of you about this. And so if you didn't share an idea, again, I encourage you to reach out to me or via the IDE committee webpage, because we really do want to make this something as a process, something that we're investing time and energy and focus on to really try to develop inclusion as an everyday practice at all levels of the organization. And it's all about practicing. So it's practice in the sense that it's something that we do regularly, and it's practice in the sense that we're not going to always get it right the first time. But that's okay, because we are in a community where the main thing is about working together to reach this feeling of inclusion, whether it's focusing on identifying the unique differences that we have as a group, or maybe it's about trying to create that sense of belonging. But in any case, bringing those two things together, then we have really made a very unique, special home for all of us then here at the KLU during your studies. And on that note, then, if you'd like to know how to get more involved in what other kinds of topics or events you can get involved in on IDE topics at KLU. So as I mentioned briefly, I have a lecture tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in the small egg over here on the topic of workplace inclusion for the digital age. It's kind of like a lecture I would give anytime. It just happens to be called the welcome ceremony. You're invited if you feel like you haven't had enough of time on campus yesterday. Then there's also a follow-up training, Diversity Over Lunch, so tackling discrimination. That will be on September 13th. And so there's a complimentary lunch for the participants, and then there'll be about a 2-hour training or 3-hour training on this topic. So you have to register also, so first come, first serve. And then finally, also tomorrow afternoon, there'll be Thriving and Surviving in Germany. So this is specially designed for all international students. If you're new to Germany and you're wondering what are the things that you have to know in order to get off to a great start, this would be a great event to attend. All right. Any comments or questions before we wrap up for today?
I
think we're good. All right, then I want to thank you again for your interactive participation. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I look forward to continuing.